How's it going there, YouTube? Jay's Cosplay Mayhem with another video. Now today, I'm going to be going over what all went during Nebarkon, as well as what went on in the cosplay contest, as well as some improvements and changes I'd like to make to the JD Fenix cosplay for next year's cosplay contest. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. So like I said, I'm going to be going over a few things. First things first is the cosplay contest. Had a blast at the cosplay contest this year. Got all those first time nerves and jitters all out of the way. But moving forward into future cosplay contests, something I like to keep doing. Had lots of fun, blast, a lot of cool people, learn some new techniques from other people by just talking with them, which I'll kind of explain a few of them later on when we discuss some of the parts of making the improvements I want to make with the JD Fenix cosplay. But so I'm still going to have those jitters when I attend the cosplay contest in general every year. But so I got a lot of those jitters out of the way. With me also being in the cosplay contest this weekend, or that weekend, didn't get any footage Saturday of the cosplay, or the convention overall as a whole on Saturday or Sunday. Got a little bit Sunday, but I think my plans are to do it in the future, and for right now just to kind of hold off on trying to get footage for you guys in the next couple of years. That way I can kind of put all my time and focus on to getting tutorials out for you guys and getting videos out for you guys in general. That way I'm not trying to bite off a little more or take on a little more than I can do for the channel, since I'm still kind of working the kinks with it and kind of getting the habit of trying to record videos for you guys in general. I don't want to do a lot more than I can do with being a first-time YouTuber. I want my channel to continue to grow and make improvements, and so obviously it's a learning process throughout the way, but I just want to focus on those kind of things in the sense, as well as I need to be getting you guys welcoming into the steampunk world video, kind of introducing you to the steampunk and different things like that, and kind of get some Nerf gun steampunking out there. But that's for a later video, and that's not in this video. So learned a lot. Had a blast during convention, even though we get there up a day early, like every year. Though it just goes by super fast, just for the fact that you're hanging out with friends, you're having a good time. Convention overall is a good time. So it'd be nice if it was like maybe another extra day, or maybe 5 days. I don't know. That may be asking a little much, but maybe that means I need to attend Comic-Con in California or Comic-Con in New York. But that's in the bucket list to attend those eventually, and also start attending other conventions and ending their cosplay contests. With that being said, I didn't win anything. I kind of hoping I was to, just for the fact that from last year I got runner-up or second place for the Hall cosplay contest. I didn't, but you know, that's where we're going to get into the different things I want to improve for the JD Fenix cosplay for next year's cosplay contest. That way I have a chance of winning something with JD Fenix from Gears of War 4. So without further ado, let's get into the improvements. So first things first, even though I like the detail I was able to get out of the insulation foam, it is a lot lighter, which is a plus. But a downfall too is when I added the barrels to the shotgun, it tended to be more weighted to the front of the weapon. And again, when I added the PVC pipe to my Lancer, I didn't feel a significant difference, even though it's 1 versus 2. I think with making the shotgun out of EV foam, that it's going to be the insulation foam, or the EV foam shotgun is going to be able to handle the weight a little more better, and won't be such a difference of weight towards the front of the weapon, since the fact that the insulation foam is a lot more lighter than EV foam. Even though overall they're both light for making props and weapons and armors, it's just this is so much significant lighter. So to remake it, and the detail I'm able to get out of the insulation foam for the insulation foam in general for weapons or whatever I tend to making it with, I like to play that same effect with the detail out of it to the EVA foam, And not only that, to be making certain things out of EVA foam and gluing them to the insulation foam, or making certain things out of insulation foam and gluing them to the EVA foam itself. Just kind of see, because there's a certain, to see what it kind of looks like and different things like that. And that way, it's not just all EVA foam or all insulation foam. It's kind of a combination of different things, and it builds up layers, and it kind of gets my skill out there and improves my skill overall. And not only that, even though I do like using, and what I thought of using the PVC pipe for the hinge part of the shotgun, I don't have it with me right now, but the time frame I had, it was a good idea at the time. But the plans are to, something I learned is to, instead of to create that hinge effect like I did with the PVC pipe for certain things, is to use vinyl tubing instead of PVC pipe. Not that it's not bad, it just adding more weight to a weapon than needed is not really necessary. So if I can eliminate adding a lot of weight to weapons or armors and make it as light as possible, is the best thing for me. And obviously there's certain things I will be making in the future, or certain things that cosplayers make that require some PVC pipe and require a little more weight. But you kind of have to work your way around that and kind of compensate for the weight of that when making your cosplay and different things like that, and your plan that when you plan on making it. But to use the vinyl tubing for the hinge, now reason why I went with the PVC pipe in the first place is so I can make it movable. That way it's easier for me to transport the weapons back and forth to the convention. But with using the vinyl tubing instead of the PVC pipe, I'm going to have to be okay with having a permanent thing attached to the weapon, and maybe work around some other things to make removable. That way this can fit either in a duffel bag or the tote itself. But overall, just instead of making that out of EVA foam, now, so I'm kind of working with some simple to a little more intricate, a little more time-consuming, complicated kind of things in a sense. Not too complicated, but as far as improvement-wise, there wasn't a whole lot with the shotgun, but going to the Lancer itself, even though totally happy with how this turned out, a lot of improvements I didn't do, or a lot of things I wanted to do when I made this that I want to do now, which is making the stock, or the barrel movable, just by simply what I did with the shotgun, by using some of my tap and drill die set to create threads into this PVC pipe that will be getting glued into the EVA foam one, but creating threads on the inside. That way I'm able to use a screw. But not only making the barrel removable by using the tap and die drill set, is to make the flashlight holder removable as well. Instead creating threads into where the screws will be going, as well is putting some small little screws into the flashlight holder to keep the flashlight in place. Not that the fact I don't like how I have it now, but constantly instead of trying to remove it or putting it in and using hot glue to glue it in place takes a little more time than kind of really needed, and just simply adding screws in a sense to hold it in place is just a little more durable. Plus, hot glue after a while you can kind of tear it right out, and if it falls off while I'm walking around, I don't want to risk losing it. So instead using screws into that, and if I have to make certain things other, not really planning on it, but if I have to, depending on the size of it when I remove this the barrel, hoping with the barrel being removed, this whole overall weapon can fit in a duffel bag or the tote. But if I have to make this removable, I will make that removable as well. I said I wanted to do when I first made it, but if it's not necessary, I won't do it. If it is, then I'll have to do so. But so again, like to get that nice detail out of the EVA foam, like I was able to do with the insulation foam, just kind of create those depth, different layers, and different things like that. But not only that, but to use actual different thickness of EVA foam besides just the floor mats that I use to make the weapons. Instead of trying to get an accurate thickness of something like this, for instance, cutting down layers to make it smaller and not the full thickness of the floor mats. Cutting it with the utility blade can, be uneven, even though you make a depth line on how thick you want that particular thing to be. It ain't always going to be accurate. So it's using those different thicknesses of foam to, when needed, to create those nice even layers. But even though I liked using the balloon lights and they were convenient for the year ago when I made this weapon, it's convenient. Walking around the convention, after several hours, the lights kind of dull and start to kind of die on me. Just for that, because there are only 3 little batteries that powering those balloon lights. After a while, yeah, they start to die. So putting LEDs into place. Now, originally I was going to have all one LED circuit, 3 on this side and 3 on the other side, where the places where the LEDs need to go on these places. But I figured it's simpler and plus a little more easier to change the batteries out. And plus I can have a small battery source, like either D or 2 AA's. But to make it wherever I place the batteries to use small little magnets in place to have that removable. So if I need to change the batteries at any point, or if I want to kind of keep eye on the soldering and just kind of check on in general, it makes it turn off and on as well. I can have access to those certain areas. But not only am I just going to have the LEDs where they're at, but I'm having a blue acrylic plastic over. I'm still going to cut these sections out like they are, but put blue acrylic to make that light pop and just a little more overall better. That way you're going to get a better flow of it. Now, not only the acrylic with those, but 2 years ago I ended up making a sound box for out of just using a toy chainsaw, and just took about the motherboard and the sound effects and the speaker and all everything else that went with it and made my own sound box, but it wasn't loud enough. So, and it's something I wanted to do when I first was wanting to use that sound effects, is install it into the Lancer, foam Lancer. Now, how I'm going about making this is actually, there's 2 lefts and there's 2 rights. I'm going to glue the 2 middle sections, you can't quite tell, but the 2 middle sections together, and then keep the 2 outside layers not quite glued in yet. And that way when I'm tracing the detailing, want to create that nice detail onto the weapon itself, I'm able to a lot more easier instead of flipping it back and forth. But not only that, it makes it easier for me to mess with the wiring as well as the sound effects easier. And if I need to create more depth into those middle sections as far where the battery packs are going to go for the soundboard as well as the LED lights, I'm able to do that without trying to just guess, and having those 2 middle sections and the 2 outside pieces not all glued together just makes it more easier to work with in the fact with that. And not only that, I like to improve the handle for the Lancer. Now I'm gotta get with somebody who has a 3D printer to maybe make something like this, but maybe smaller, and then also kind of working with this to make it smaller as well. Just a little too big, but I think with kind of creating a nice depth and detail into the Lancer, this will fit a little more snug to the Lancer. But I think making a smaller version, because I don't really need this big a size, make it just a little more smaller. But I like to ideally make it so I can slide it back and forth like the plastic replica you can do. But not only that is to not be able to slide it back and forth, but I like to make it hinge like it does in the game. Kind of get that nice effect to it. And I think with that, if I make either a plastic version of this hinge, not only opens up like this, but twist, I think making it smaller obviously would be a good thing too. I think that's about it for the Lancer. So the LED lights, soundboard, and having wherever those battery sources are for the soundboard, using just small little magnets to take it removable off and on, so I have access to it. Now, moving on to the big overall picture of my cosplay is the armor. See, with the armor, I'm going to have 3, 4 different sections, I guess. I don't know how we want to count it. Basically having a front upper half area, which will include this upper section to like probably about like right here, and then this lower section, so where the zipper and then the buckle is, to have it separate from there. But not only that, is to make it a different thickness of foam by making it attachable and detachable by using the elastic strapping and some PVC or some snaps into the inside of the armor, inside of this other foam inside, so I can snap it together. With having them two different sections, like from the top half and the lower half, it makes it easier to sit down and bend and a little bit more comfortable. Even though I'm going to be shortening up this armor, it's a little longer than it need to be. So that's the first time kind of things you learn with messing with and making armor. It's all a learning process. So to make this smaller, smaller, because it's a little slightly long, so I can't really sit quite comfortably. But also make it more closer to my person. I left it a little more bigger than needed to. That way I have room and so I can not be so hot. But to make it a little more closer to me, and using magnets, so like obviously I'm gonna have different halves like right down the middle, and connecting those two different sections in the lower section too, by using nano magnets and then buckles to kind of keep them in place. That way, if I bend too far and the armor comes apart, I still have that buckles to keep it secure. There's not going to be a lot of stretch in that buckles, so if it is, that's where instead of having two different halves and the lower section and the upper section is going to come in handy by using elastic there. And then also to kind of create more of the armor a little more wider, because it is kind of not as wide as it could be, because for the fact that when I try to reach my front of my person when wearing the armor, I'm only limited to doing this because these are in kind of in the way. But with the second armor that I'm making, to make it actually permanently instead of removable, because I won't need it the section removable when creating the different halves, it's going to be a little more easier to store. It's not necessary for me to have the two different halves. Plus, I can kind of round it off a little bit and make it stick to the once I have the armor wider, I'm able to kind of keep it in place and glued. But to create the same sections I have removable, like this piece and this center section piece, to keep those removable, but attaching those with using magnets instead of the Velcro, just for the fact that after a while the Velcro kind of comes up. Even though I use contact cement on the armor to keep them attach them and detach them, it kind of comes apart. I think the magnets are a little bit more smarter in a sense and efficient. And then to have this whole section right here, all one section instead of separate, and then to include LED lights right these three places, and with it making a section one big section, I'm able to apply and put those battery storage use battery packs and to use the LEDs like I need to. Now depending, this size will probably be just using one, but these longer pieces right here will probably need two LEDs, but we'll kind of see once I kind of get there at the time. And then you use different thicknesses of EVA foam instead of just trying to cut down and trim down the sizing of the floor mats, but to actually use different thicknesses of foam. Now again, with the magnets, even though I like how big they are, to stick with the magnet has more of a surface area than what this has. It's kind of limited, which I also kind of think why I wasn't able to keep the weapons onto the back of the piece of armor. But not only that, I'm planning on using this little plastic piece here. It's got some teeth on it. I basically recycled a battery display case from a business that they were just throwing away because they no longer needed it. But basically just using this plastic piece by gluing it and attaching it to the armor or the weapon itself. More likely they're going to stay on the weapons, but instead attaching these to the weapons and making it work. That way it's not so awkward and it seems kind of abnormal with the weapons. But then using this and using the existing holes that these have, by just cutting them out, and then maybe instead of just throwing this away recycle it way I can use it maybe for future cosplays, or if I need to cut more holes for this, I can. But to glue these holes in a certain section of the armor, probably it's going to be in line with the magnet, so somewhere probably either on this piece or right here. Really depending on where I place it on the weapon is where I'm going to put this at. That's also going to include in future weapons I make. And with this, kind of another alternative besides using magnets, I feel like, in the future with cosplay builds. So we'll kind of see how that goes from there. But not only that, as I'm either going to go use elastic or regular strapping and some buckles, and to strap the weapon into place too. Kind of sucks, I'm going to have somebody help me, but it's no big deal in there. That way, the magnet and this little plastic piece holds that into place, and all that somebody has to do is just strap it into place. Now, I think I'm kind of leaning towards more of a regular strapping. That way I can kind of cut more than I need to, and using a D-ring in that place so I can just slide that extra into place. Because with the different Gears of War games, or the different weapons in the Gears of War game, they're different thicknesses and bigger weapons, small weapons. So to be able to adjust that with that kind of strapping, it'd be nice. That way, either if I need, so the shotgun and the Lancer's not too thick of a weapon, but when you use thicker weapons and I want to make eventually down the line, that extra strapping is going to come in handy. In handy. Not only that, but with the EL wire that I have for the existing light, the plans are with that is to probably create a depth, I don't know, probably about that high off the armor itself, and then encasing the light by surrounding with the armor to make it part of the game. Because in the game, they're not just the wire exposed, it's a little light section, I guess, the best way to describe it. But then not only that, to use that blue acrylic plastic that I'm going to be getting, and once I built up that layer to cover that, since it is flexible, and to gluing that into place, the piece that I'm planning on attaching over it, so you still see the light. And not only from there, if you're familiar with the game, they each of the lights that are right here have a design and different design to them. Each character does. So to use some kind of vinyl adhesive to making a decal out of it, and just placing that decal over that acrylic. That way I get that detail. And I think with JDs it's just straight lines, and I can make and glue thin pieces of EVA foam, or I can use an adhesive vinyl stickering. So I'm going to use a vinyl stickering to place it over that blue vinyl. That way I get some detail and depth, just to, instead of a solid blue light, it's got some little bit of detail there. And to certain things, like with these, since they're to be glued on permanently, I won't be able to do LEDs, so I'm just going to paint those. But this for sure, this section here is going to have some LEDs, and with it movable and the placement I'm going to be having of the EL wire battery sources, I'm going to be able to fit those. It should be only one pack for 4 LEDs, but placing that battery placement for the LEDs in the front, just placing it there. And it kind of gets some more detail and turn on and get some more better detail than just scoring like I was able to do with the insulation foam. Kind of use some of that to create the nice depth and detail out of the foam. And again, using the different thicknesses. For the most part, that should be probably about it with the weaponing. That should be all it. And look forward to videos come along in the next few weeks as far as me working on starting to improve this cosplay. If you haven't already, comment, like, and subscribe. Much appreciated.